Hi, good day. I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about the salvage and reflotation of the 96-foot Camper and Nicholson, a steel-hulled pleasure boat, pleasure vessel, that ran aground off the south coast of Antigua on Cades Reef. This happened on the 3rd of December 1991. Now, Cades Reef in the 90s, 80s, 90s was a very popular spot for strandings, and the reason for this is that the majority of these, almost all of these yachts coming to Antigua were going to English Harbour, and we didn't have GPS in those days, and as they approached the south coast of Antigua, the main lights that they saw when they approached were the lights of Curtain Bluff Hotel, right on the south coast, not far, just about 2 miles west of the entrance of Falmouth Harbour and English Harbour. And they all thought that that was in fact one of the latter, either English Harbour or Falmouth Harbour. Both of those harbours are very well protected from the sea, and if you're perpendicular to them at the coast, you're not going to see anything because of the overlapping of the entrance, so you wouldn't have a clue where they were if you're looking for lights in terms of a landmark. So they head towards Curtain Bluff, and Cades Reef just spans 2-3 miles of reef straight down the coast off Curtain Bluff, and they would end up there. Since the advent of GPS, it's rare to get a stranding there now. The Navigator, like I said, ran into Cades Reef and became very well stuck up into the reef, and said, I think it was the Coast Guard who called us concerning that one. No, we don't move at all in any rescue operation without informing the Coast Guard, and more often than not, they're the ones who will call us. They are more with search and rescue and don't get involved in salvage. Very rare that they'll throw a line and pull anybody off. They will ask usually us to come out and deal with it. They'll take the people off the boat, but that's as far as it goes. And the reason I want to talk about the Navigator today, again, I have very few pictures of this. I think we only have 2 or 3. But it explains the terms of which we go out and operate on and give assistance, salvage terms. And we almost exclusively use and have used since the 80s the Lloyd's open form, a standard form of salvage, which is described as a no cure, no pay arrangement. In other words, if you don't get them off, you don't get paid anything. And if you do get them off, you get paid only on the sal value, not the insured value. So being paid on the sal value means that you want to get out there quick and get them off, and thus that's the motivation that this form gives. You go out, the more damage it gets, the longer it stays there, the less you're going to get paid, so hustle up and get out there. Now, the Lloyd's form has been around since I think the 19th century, and it's put out obviously by Lloyd's Insurance, and it affords a way. It's a very popular form internationally and very established and very fair. It affords the benefit that you can go out and you can pull the vessel off the reef without having come to a fixed price. And afterwards you work it out, and it's usually based on the value, the sal value of the boat, the risk to what the boat was at, the risk to what the salvers, us, are being put to. Night is always worse, bad weather is worse, and you can come to terms and a settlement afterwards. And if you can't, Lloyd's will provide an arbitrator who will decide what you should be paid. So it's actually a very fair form, and it gives security to both parties that something fair will come out of it. And we've been doing this since the 80s, the mid-80s, professionally as a company. And we've been arbitrated twice in all these years, never before. And the Navigator was the second time that we had to take it to arbitration. Fortunately for us, we won both arbitrations, and we were given what we asked for, plus interest over the time it took, plus on both occasions the insurers stood the cost of the litigation, both for the yacht and our fees too. So we've never had to pay a fee when we went to arbitration. Both were appealed in London at Lloyd's, and we won one, and then it's ironically the other one was done within a year or so of the first one, the Salvage. And when those insurers heard that we won the first time and the appeal, they dropped the case and settled. It's difficult to have somebody on a reef, you know, say, okay, we're going to do this job in a Lloyd's form, and they're going to say, well, what's it going to cost? It's hard to give them a price because you don't know how long it's going to take, if it's going to be successful, and all of this. So it's hard for them to agree to this, but the reality is, in my opinion, and throughout the world, it's the way to go. With the local boats, like the local charter companies, and we have quite a few, or privately owned boats in Antigua, and it's a small island, so chances are I will know most of these people who run aground. We deal directly with the insurers, and no Lloyd's form signed, and we've been working with them for years, and we have a good relationship. So it's quite easy. You go out, no form signed, get them off the reef. Of course, a call is made to the insurers as soon as it's happened. And if it's somebody we know, friends or even just local people that we don't know well, something it's worked out easily. Sometimes no charge whatsoever if it's fairly straightforward and simple. The reality of salvage in Antigua is that if you're not going to make any money, any big money at all. If you're lucky, if you're lucky. If there'll probably be 2 or 3 a year, sometimes 1. And it pays the expenses of running the boat and it gives your crew something. But overall, it's not a big deal, and so that's you're in it if you the excitement and the fun of it. And I love it. I wrote a book in it, Salvage, and Antigua's Atlantic Rose, all in one book. So I enjoy it. We responded to the in the morning, early morning, to the Navigator, and it gave us a hard time. It was a very heavy steel boat, and we eventually got it off. It took us about 6-8 hours. It lost one of its stabilizers, had some rudder damage, and it was holed actually. One of the plates were penetrated. Fortunately, it was entered into a fuel tank, and that fuel tank was empty, so there was no pollution. It was coming to Antigua from somewhere in Europe, so they were pretty low on fuel. There was no fuel in that tank, so it wasn't too bad. And like I say, it went to arbitration, and we were successful with it. So that's the story of the Navigator.